Hi guys, welcome to episode 2 of my novel writing / novel planning series. So if you haven't already, please do check out episode 1 where I introduce you to my whole novel concept very briefly. Please do check it out before watching this part, otherwise this part, episode 2, is not really going to make that much sense based on what I said in episode 1. So please do check out episode 1 or check out the playlist in general. And right, so I have a lot to talk about. So what you're seeing right now is a book cover, but it's not official. I just need to make that clear. It's not official. It's simply a teaser pic because I do like my aesthetics. I love aesthetics, especially I was just playing in my own time. Like, I was so bored out of my brain. I was like thinking like about the book cover design, even though I haven't even drafted yet. I haven't even started the actual writing process yet. I'm still at the brainstorming / outlining phase and about that. So yeah, I'm still outlining. I've got a lot to talk about. So I've been experimenting a lot with like different outlining methods. And just to clarify again, the image that you're seeing is not official. It's just something that I did in my own time. And just to give you a teaser of the actual working title. So the working title, book title that I think is going to be the book title, it could very well change, is Agent Cinder. So I had to do a lot of brainstorming about different types of book titles, and I thought to myself, I need to make sure that it's really in line with what the main genre is. Like, I gotta say it immediately what the genre is. So I thought to myself, if it's going to be a spy mystery / thriller, and I'll talk about the whole genre thing in a bit, I do need to make it clear what it is about, kind of. So yeah, so I wanted to mention both Agent and then Cinder. Well, that's the name, one of the names of my main character. She's not going to be called Cinder, it's just her agent name, just to clarify. Yeah, so just wanted to make it known that it's a Cinderella retelling, so hence why Cinder is being shown, is part of the title. But I could change this title, it just depends on if I come up with a better idea. I was thinking Agent Cinder and the Prince, but then I thought to myself, that's way too long, even though the Prince also has just as much importance in the storyline as Cinder, the main character. So it was a bit difficult to come up with a name, but yeah, that's what it is for now, at least. Yeah, so if you hate this cover, don't worry, it's just a teaser. That's all it is. Anyway, I was just playing around with the free version of Canva. Now, when it comes to plotting, so this episode is going to be all about plotting, outlining. Not exactly a lesson or anything, but I had to do quite a bit of research and also experimentation of different outlining methods. So without any further ado, I'm going to be talking about the whole genre thing because I was confused as fuck. So my plot, at least for now, it sounds more like a mystery. So I had to do a bit of research about the different kinds of conventions between what makes a mystery versus what makes a thriller. And I found that my plot was actually leaning towards more as a mystery. Like, for example, the main character is occupied in tracking down the truth about an event, usually a murder. Yeah, there's definitely a murder mystery element to the plot. If the protagonist is in any danger, it is usually moderate and becomes a problem only as the detective, or in my case, the spy, approaches the truth. So the spy in my novel is trying to work out what the truth is regarding a particular plot, the inciting incident that happened right at the beginning. Obviously, I need to be quite vague about this because I don't want to give too much away. But the thing is that the espionage genre falls into the thriller genre. And to be honest, thriller and mystery and suspense, they are constantly being labeled interchangeably, which is why it's causing a bit of confusion. Like, for example, if you go into a library, you are going to see all the crime novels, mystery novels, thriller novels, and suspense novels all into like one section, rather than being labeled all differently. So I was just like, okay, is my novel, is my plot a thriller or a mystery, or can it have elements of both? And I can safely say it has elements of both, although it's probably leaning more towards mystery. But does a label matter? I'm actually curious, does a label matter regarding genre? Because I do need to market this correctly, and that's just, I guess as I learn more about my novel, I'll have a clearer idea regarding genre. But for now, I just wanted to point that out, because in the previous part, in episode 1, I clearly said that it's a spy thriller, and I didn't take into consideration what that really meant, because I had to research about thriller conventions. So I did a little bit of an oopsie, but I mean, technically speaking, a spy genre is actually it's a subgenre of the thriller genre, as far as my understanding is. So I'm not totally wrong, it's just there is that mystery element that makes it a little bit confusing. So apparently a mystery novel is all about the actual puzzle in trying to figure out who the villain is that committed the crime in the inciting incident. So for example, any sort of Agatha Christie novel is going to have like a murder happen right at the beginning, and there's going to be a detective trying to see who, out of all the suspects, who was the one that actually committed that crime. But a thrillers are about the push and pull between the protagonist and the antagonist. It's usually like it strives from heightened emotions and emphasize the sensations of what might be called an obstacle race and a scavenger hunt. So there's usually like a lot of chase going on with thrillers, depending on what subgenre you're doing, because thrillers can be psychological or more focused on the crime. Okay, here's an interesting thing. A thriller centers on a particular profession, such as espionage, which is what my novel is about, law or medicine. Solving the crime and the puzzle it presents takes a backseat to the jargon of the profession, the potential dangers faced by those involved in it, and the fast-paced cinematic action of these stories. There's actually quite a bit of action in my plot, so it is what it is. So let me just go into conventions, because you really do need to do your research to make sure that you're hitting all the boxes. So there's actually quite a lot of conventions of a thriller, and this idea came from remembering my media studies A-level lessons, because during my media studies A-level we had to learn the conventions of a thriller, and so it reminded me of back then when I had to learn the conventions of a thriller, because back then we had to make like a thriller opening, and that was so cool. So I made a thriller film opening. I was really into video making back then, so I was just like, you gotta really understand the genre conventions so that you target the correct audience and market your book correctly. So that's just something that I'm throwing out there. Okay, so regarding conventions, there's obviously going to be a crime. There is to be a crime indicative of a master villain. Sometimes the villain has already committed other crimes before we enter the story on page 1. For example, if there's a serial killer, in my case, actually I won't say. And given a few examples, victims, obviously it's going to be victims, master antagonist, so you got to tick all of these boxes. Clues and red herrings. There's got to be a ton of like red herrings and clues, but then again that's also true for a mystery, hence why I was confused about where my novel is, what my novel is. Is it a thriller or a mystery? A speech in praise of the villain. Okay. A MacGuffin. Okay, there's definitely a MacGuffin. I mean, there's pretty much all of these conventions. All of these conventions I'm definitely hitting regarding my plot. So if anyone is like an expert in like thriller novels, please by all means give me more info if you want. So a MacGuffin, if you don't know, so this is something else that I also learned in my media studies lessons back in the day. So a MacGuffin is like an object of desire that is told right at the beginning of a story or a film. So it could be like a treasure, a map. In the case of One Piece, it's going to be the actual One Piece itself that everyone wants, right? So that's a MacGuffin, something that all the characters want. It's the antagonist object of desire, what he or she is trying to get, accomplish, or achieve over the course of the story. Usually the crime at the beginning of the story contains some clue about the antagonist MacGuffin. Okay. And it gives a bunch of examples about that. Shapeshifter, ticking clock. Okay, this is something that I still need to figure out how to include this concept in my plot. Lives at stake, false ending. And that's something else I need to tick as well. But for most of them, I've got these points. I really hope you can see all of the info. If not, then I'll probably make it bigger during editing. I just wanted to throw that out there because, as I said, you've got to market this correctly. If you ever consider doing a mystery or thriller or suspense, you got to know what it is. There are 6 elements of a mystery novel, so I had to do a research on what the 6 elements of a mystery are in this article's case. A crime, obviously. An unknown criminal. Okay, so obviously, like right at the beginning, there's going to be either a murder or theft. Those are the most common crimes, I think, for a mystery novel or film. And the criminal, the thing that sets apart a mystery and a thriller is the fact that in a mystery, we don't know who the villain is. We don't know who the culprit is. So throughout most of the novel is the detective searching for clues, follows red herrings, tries to figure out who it is. But a thriller, we already know who the villain is. And it's just about trying to arrest that villain or trying to defeat that villain. At least from my understanding, that's the distinction between the two genres. One or more cover-ups, a trail of suspects, a pursuit of the criminal. Okay, and there's just a whole discussion about the subgenres of both thrillers and mysteries. So regarding outlining, so I've been doing a lot of brainstorming again with my whiteboard. I'll probably throw in a few more like different brainstormings that I've done, but with like blurred parts to it, so you guys don't really see what I wrote. But it really did help actually. Like all the brainstorming that I did, it helped so much. So after that, the first thing that I did was make a plot grid. This is my plot grid. And I want to see if I can... There we go. Okay. Right, so welcome to my plot grid. So if you don't know what plot grid is, it's a type of outlining that you can do to really track everything in your novel. From, let me just zoom in, scene number, POV, time, chapter title. I really hope you guys can see. Let me just make it a bit bigger. Okay. Scene number, POV, time, chapter title, main plot. So it's just to help you to track everything from scene number, POV, because there's a dual point of view for my novel. At least that's what I want to do. That's how I feel the plot would be best told. I also need to track the timing, so knowing when the events happen, because that's going to help you with the pacing of the novel. Chapter title, I don't know. Do people still do chapter titles? I don't think people do chapter titles, but it's helping me to like figure out what the main idea is per chapter. By the way, the plot grid I actually stopped using the plot grid, I wanted to find something that was even more effective. I do want to say that the plot grid is definitely helpful if you want to track everything, because the thing about plot is that you don't just have a main plot, you have several subplots that go in line with the main plot to add more depth to the main plot and to add more depth to the characters as well, because there's going to be so many characters and you do need to flesh them out, and that's the purpose of the subplots. And also, if you are writing something with romance, you would need to have a romance subplot, and there is a romance subplot as for my novel, because it is a Cinderella retelling, so there is going to have to be a romance subplot. So, by the way, the reason why I made these navy blue is so that you don't see the information of what I wrote. I have changed a lot of the ideas ever since I made this. So I made this like a month and a half ago. So the ideas have slightly changed. At least in terms of order. So this is not the first thing that's going to happen. The spy training that my character goes through, the main one, she's going to do the training a little bit later on. It's not going to be like the first thing, because the first chapter is actually supposed to introduce the setting, the characters, introduce their normal everyday life. So it's known as a status quo. So I had to do a lot of research in terms of like understanding story structure as well, and that's something very important. So if I haven't said it already, I am a huge plotter. I love outlining. I absolutely adore the idea of planning a story out. It's the drafting part that's going to be tricky and not as much fun for me, but yeah, regarding drafting, so I'm thinking of finishing the whole planning thing, the outlining thing, by mid-August, early to mid-August, and then by mid-August I'll start the actual first draft by typing finally. So I just hope I persevere and have that maintain that motivation to persevere, because it's going to be quite a while to like write and then finish the first draft, and then I'd have to do like rewrites, get feedback from you guys as well as the writing experts as well. So it's going to be a long process, but I'm really excited. So yeah, so this plot grid, I'm no longer actually using this. I'm actually using a Plottr. I'm using the Plottr software now. But before I show that, I'll just show you the subplots. So that's how, yeah, I've color coded it just so, because I like colors. So there's a whole step family subplot. Okay, so all of these names, let me just clarify. So Sindra is the name of my main character, and she is the Cinderella. Heron is the Prince Charming, one of the other main characters. So my novel has two main characters, two protagonists, and I gotta track Sindra's relationship with her stepfamily, Heron's relationship with his father, because he's the prince and we need to track that, and also need to track Sindra and Heron's romance subplot, obviously because there's Cinderella and Prince Charming. And another subplot is regarding Heron's little sister as well, and her political activism. Although I'm not sure if I'll stick to that, but yeah, that's just a brief thing. So yeah, it's just an idea to throw in. Like if you ever write a novel, either do this method, but only if you're a plotter. If you're not a plotter, completely disregard this if you don't like it. I'm just showing you an example. Okay, enough of this. I'm not using this anymore because I found something better. I found something that was more visually pleasing. So let me introduce you to Plottr. So this is what Plottr looks like. It's an actual software, but let me just get the actual website out. Okay, I'm not sponsoring them. I just need to clarify, I'm not sponsoring them. It's just that their software makes it so easy. To be honest, it's not exactly free. They do provide like a free trial. I believe it's a free trial. Let me just double check. Start your free 14-day trial. Okay, so you do have a free trial. So if you don't like it, you can just cancel your subscription and you won't be charged. So I had to pay because I believe I will continue to use this. And this is how it looks. So you're tracking basically all of the main plot and the subplots as well. And then, yeah, this is on Pride and Prejudice. So quickly outline the book with visual story cards. So the reason why I switched from the plot grid to using this is because I needed something that will make me see everything all in like one page, or at least most of the actual plot in one page, because I was just finding that with the plot grid I was being too elaborate with the scenes, and I was just like thinking like, this is going to take me forever because I'm just being a bit too elaborate with my information. I need to be more concise with each scene so that I don't just make something too comprehensive. And then because you kind of do need to be a bit concise, especially if you're someone who outlines in depth. If you just write like in length, then it kind of makes you forget what you just wrote. And I'm starting to see myself kind of forgetting the story, so I gotta keep a track of everything but be a bit more concise. You can see how like these points here, that these descriptions, they're short, even though I'm not gonna make it that short, but it kind of helps you to see everything. So without any further ado, let me just show it. What would make better sense is actually explaining first the actual outlining methods I inputted into the novel software. So I am using the 3 acts, 9 blocks and 27 chapter outline, although I kind of changed it a little bit, but here it is. So this outline was created by a YouTuber and her name is Katytastic. I highly recommend. I will provide links to all of the websites or people that I talk about, so I will provide links in the description. Also, there are timestamps in the description. Please do check out the timestamps because I'm just going to be talking a lot about different things here regarding plot. So if you want to look at a particular section, please check out the timestamps. So regarding Katytastic's outlining method, she has brilliantly and ingeniously provided a comprehensive outline that really provides a clear and comprehensive outline. That is also a guideline for what beats you need to hit for a novel. The amazing thing about this particular outline is that it's versatile, which means that regardless of what your genre is, like if it's a romance, if it's a fantasy, if it's a thriller, mystery, etc., you can fit any sort of story with this particular outline, even though it's more centered towards fantasy because it's based on the hero's journey, kind of, but you can pretty much make it fit any type of genre, fit any type of story. Okay, so obviously with Act 1 you're just setting the scene, introducing your characters, and I'm just going to show you that I've completed Act 1. I hope if I'm showing it right. Okay, so yeah, so I actually finished outlining Act 1 yesterday, although I am noticing that there is a bit of a plot hole with what I wrote, but at least I have something down. I don't think I should worry about you guys seeing what I wrote because I wrote really small and lightly as well. And I think the light is going to blind the info, or at least I hope. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into an explanation about what these points mean, because Kat O'Keefe made a brilliant, actually she made 2 videos. She made a video a very, very long time ago, like a whole decade ago, I think, just explaining what her outline method is all about. And she provided the Hunger Games as an example, because the Hunger Games actually fits this 27 chapter outline. So she's got a whole article about this. Although the trouble is that she didn't make an actual worksheet, and I feel like it would have been nice if she had made a worksheet like this. So I had to do a lot of searching around to see if someone else made a worksheet based on her outlining method, and thankfully someone did make a worksheet. I feel like I hit the jackpot because I absolutely love this outline method. So this is about Act 1 and Act 2, Act 3. So it's a brilliant outlining method, although the little trouble that I'm having is that I see Act 2 as being the bulk of the story. So Act 2 is supposed to make 50% of your story, which means it needs to have more in terms of word count than the other 2 acts. So I've had to think deeply about the word count. I might just edit what I'm just saying now, but I feel like I definitely want to hit at least the minimum 80,000 words in total. So if I stick to an 80,000 word count, I'd need to make this 20,000 words. Act 1, 20,000 words. Act 2 is going to be 40,000 words. And Act 3 is going to be 20,000 words to make an overall word count of 80,000 words. But 80,000 words is actually not considered a very thick, big story. So I actually want to hit more than that. So 90 would be good. If it's 90 that I stick to, then this one is going to be 22,500 words. Wait, this one. So if I stick to 90,000 words as my word count goal for the whole project, Act 1 is going to roughly make 22,500 words. Act 2 is going to be 45,000 words. Act 3 is going to be 22,500 words. But then again, that's not supposed to be a fixed rule. It's just something as a guide for me to hit so that the pacing is excellent. That's why I'm talking about the word count goals, because if your pacing is shit, then that means the word count that you've done for the sections needs work. So you got to think about word count to really think about the pacing of your novel. So for example, if you were spending so much time on Act 1, then that means you're not driving the plot forward to get to Act 2. So hence why I was talking about the word count goals. Yeah. Okay, so now let me show the actual plot software. Okay, here it is. Now, there's the outline section, which provides you a whole list. If you were to write a series, which I'm not, but I just wrote Agent Cinder. Of course, that's just the working title. And if I put a premise in, which is just a brief description about what the actual plot is about, I'm still thinking about it. I did actually make a log line, but I still need to refine it. And then there's genre, and then there's a theme, which I still need to fill out. And then the timeline. Okay, here we go. So there's actually 2 ways to show this. There's this way, but if I flip, you can also do it this way. I incorporated Katytastics. I know it says 54. I just doubled her chapter number line. I just doubled the number because I'm going to make my chapters shorter, because I like short and snappy chapters. I don't like my chapters to be 3,000 words long, because if I'm to hit 90,000 words with a 27 chapter outline, I'd have to make 3,000 words per chapter. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to want to write 3,000 words all in one sitting. So that's why I've doubled the amount so that I can include shorter chapters, but still make that goal of 90,000 words. I know that sounds confusing, all that maths I just did, but bear with me. Okay, right, so there's the introduction. Okay, so I'm just going to blur this, but I've included some hell of a lot of information just about this particular introduction, which is actually not going to be the introduction. It's going to happen slightly later on. And here's the thing. You don't necessarily have to write your story in order. I'm actually writing this in order, linearly, because that's how my brain works. But I'm finding that some things just need to happen later on. So her entire beats are being put. So here's the inciting incident, and this is the reaction rebel stage, action, consequence, pressure, plot twist, push, new world, fun and games, and I've also incorporated the 7-point plot structure just to keep my head in focus about like the main plot points as well. So like the main plot points is the actual hook. Plot tone 1 is the inciting incident where the actual plot starts. Okay, so just clarifying that this is still something that I'm working on, so I've barely done much with this because I want to complete this worksheet before I start writing down on here, because I'm refining the ideas and I'm already noticing like problems within the plot to fix them beforehand before writing. And you're probably like thinking, Shariana, just start the draft. What are you doing with all this planning? I know. So as I said, I'm a meticulous planner. I'm a Virgo, by the way, so there you have it. Virgos are known to be perfectionists and huge planners. So, and the thing is I don't want to constantly rewrite something after drafting, because if you were to not plan, you are more likely to rewrite. I'm definitely still going to rewrite regardless, but it's not going to be as much as if I didn't plan, if that makes sense. So it's always a good idea to at least have a vague understanding of where your plot is going in the novel. Okay, so the 7 plot structure, I've made a whole like line here, and then Katytastic's 27 or 54 chapter outline, made a whole line here, and I also made a whole line for the villain's journey. Now the villain's journey, the reason why I wanted to track this is because it's going to help me figure out what the villain actually wants to do, what their goals are throughout. Because, and also just wanted to say that even though I'm focusing so much on plot, I am actually thinking about my characters as well in general, like their goals, motivations and conflicts, and just who they are as well. But that's going to be for the next part where I talk about a bit more about my characters. I also need to figure out my villains, and that's something that I'm doing at the moment, because if you think about it, especially if you're writing like a mystery or thriller novel, you definitely need to figure out what the villain's intentions, motives, crimes and overall goals are throughout. So that's something that I need to keep a track of. And the brilliant thing about the reason why, not only does it provide you a visual timeline or map of your entire plot, but the reason why this software is so good is because it provides a whole multitude of different outline templates. So if I was to start on a different template, I could make my own, and that's what I did, because Katytastic, also known as Kat O'Keefe, her outline method was not included in the software, which is a huge bummer because her outline method has been around for at least a couple of years. So I thought her outline would have been included, but it's not, at least for now. Hopefully they decide to include her outline in the actual software, but they have included a whole bunch of different outlines. How did I do it before? Okay, let me see. Okay, create from template. So if you create from template, you can see a whole bunch of different outline methods. So you've got the snowflake method, which is literally the longest type of plotting you can do. There's a 12-step mystery formula for mystery novels. I could have used this one, but I don't know, I just felt more inclined to use the 27 chapter one. There is a 24 chapter novel outline, but I'm just more familiar with the other one. So basically you can choose any of these templates, these outline templates, and then just make a story based on the beats given. So these are all the plot lines here and scene cards. Sorry, I was experiencing some problems before because I didn't update the latest version, so hopefully it works this time. Right, so I just made a new project. Just wanted to show you how to like incorporate your own plot outlining method. Okay, so trying to remember how it was done before. So yeah, okay, project, start with template. Okay, that's how you do it. Okay, right, so you can use this one, for example, or you can use, okay, let me just go over the list. Cozy mystery, action plot, which is kind of like the hero's journey, but action, like, yeah, a lot of these are going to be based on like the hero's journey, because this one is like one of the classic type of outlines. But there's also Freytag's pyramid, which is also a classic, and that's something that you're probably familiar with in school, you know, like when you had to like plan out your story, you had to use like the Freytag's pyramid or story mountain. You're probably familiar with. In media res is actually included. That would be good for like thriller. So there's so many. There's even like romance based ones. 7 point, yeah, I incorporated this one into my one because I just liked it. Even though it's not a comprehensive one, but I wanted to pair it with another one, the 27 chapter outline one. So I actually had to like individually type it all out to make my own template rather than using one of their templates. You gotta really familiarize yourself with this so it works. Why isn't it working? Okay, I'm experiencing some problems, but there was a way to do it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you just need to click on it. Okay, I'm still familiarizing myself with the software. I apologize for not being completely familiar, and I'm not supposed to be an expert anyways. This isn't a tutorial, it's just to show you what the actual Plottr software can do. So if you had to write a children's book, this is the kind of formula you could use, outline you could use. And actually, regarding outlines, like just because there's an outline, just because there's a description that you need to follow, it doesn't mean that you have to follow it exactly. You are more than welcome to change things up a bit, but generally speaking, this is how stories need to be. Especially if you want to get traditionally published. They're not expecting you to be a plotter necessarily, but they expect you to know what you're doing, basically. Okay, right. That's it. That's it for this showcase. I wouldn't consider it really a tutorial, because I wasn't really sure what I was doing with the Plottr software. But I guess that's feedback for them to just kind of make it a bit more. It is definitely intuitive. It's not complex, but maybe it was just like some of the functions weren't working. I don't know. I hope you learned something though from this, and I'm excited to see where this goes. So next episode I'm going to be talking about the characters, because so far I've talked a lot about the plot, and I just want to clarify that I am definitely going through my character arcs, refining it, really trying to find out their backstories, goals, motivation, conflict, which I'll talk about a lot in detail in the next episode. And I also have a surprise in the next episode, because I'm going to show you an amazing website where I actually created my characters. I know, right? I actually created my characters without needing to hire someone to do it for me. So I'm so excited to show that next time. And I also did like character mood boards as well, so there's a lot to look forward to in the next episode as well as the episode after that. Anyway, hope you have a good day, and I hope you learned something. Stay tuned for more.